Italian Football Podcast.
Let's talk about the weekend. Milan Derby preview. Let's preview the game. So the Saturday evening, early evening game, Inter versus Milan at San Siro. It's an early Scudetto showdown already. Two teams with 100% records. Two teams who've been far and away the best teams in Serie A so far. So it's going to be an absolutely fascinating match. Cannot wait for it. Let's go through some of the key talking points. First of all, probable 11s. Inter, they're going to be unchanged again, aren't they?
Yeah. I expect them to be unchanged. I expect them to play the same lineup. Thuram, Lautaro up front, Di Marco, Mkhitaryan, Çalhanoğlu, Barella, Dumfries, Bastoni, De Vrij, Darmian, and of course Jan Sommer in goal.
And Milan though do have a few uncertainties due to injury, because Tomori's suspended because he got sent off against Roma, so that's clear. Kalulu is struggling with injury, so it looks like it's going to be Simon Kjaer that comes in to partner Malik Thiaw. So that's clearly straight away a potential weak spot for Inter to exploit. The rest of the team will be unchanged, with the exception of the uncertainty of Olivier Giroud. So that is the question mark there. Will Giroud be fit? He got injured in the first France game of the international break. Came off early in the first half. So will he be? We'll know probably on Thursday or Friday on the training sessions whether he's going to be fit. If not, you're looking at Luka Jovic. So again, that's a big question mark there for Milan, seeing as what Jovic has done. Unless they surprise us and they don't play Jovic, they play someone else there, Leao or Okafor in a kind of a more unnatural role. We'll see. So there's more uncertainties there for Milan. Tactical battles, Nima. Obviously, Inter dominated Milan in the key games in the business end of last season, especially in those Champions League semi-final matches. But Milan have now changed. They've gone to a 3 in midfield. It's going to be a 4-3-3. Milan also have a better bench than last season. They also have more intensity. So assuming Giroud is fit, we're probably looking at it's not going to be the one-sided game, is it, that we saw in the Champions League?
No. This is going to be a different game. I expect a much tighter game. I expect Milan to not be as gung-ho as people think that Pioli is going to be. I think with Simon Kjaer and Malik Thiaw playing, which looks very likely in central defence, I expect Milan to actually play like they did against Napoli in the Champions League quarterfinal. I expect them to be much deeper, much balanced, because I think, you can make the argument that if they had no suspensions and injuries and so on, that he probably would want to impose himself to kind of show that, we are Milan, this is how we want to play against City, this is how we play against Lecce, this is how we play against Inter. But I think with this particular situation, and we're so early on in the season, match day 4, I think the attitude is don't lose. Because it would be, if I'm not mistaken, that would be his 5th loss of the calendar year in the Milan Derby. It would be in the Supercoppa, the Serie A, and twice in the Champions League in 2023. Pioli's loss to Inzaghi in the Derby della Madonnina across three competitions. I think he just wants to stop that rut. And I was looking at Ante Djukic, one of our patrons and a good friend of mine. He works for Opta Analyst, and he's written a preview, a statistical preview, which will be out today or tomorrow. But he sent it to me so I could, as to use in our preview here. So thank you very much. We will be sharing the links on our social media when it comes out. So all the stats that I'm reading are from Opta and from Ante Djukic's article that is coming out. But over the past 3 seasons, Inter have won 7 games against Milan, Milan 3, 2 draws in all competitions. So I expect that to stop. I expect it to see a much more cagey, much more closed affair. I don't think. I think for both coaches, this is about not losing more than anything.
Yeah, I mean, I think if we get to like the 60-minute mark and it's 0-0, then yeah, I could probably see that happening. But if we're going to talk predictions, do you want to do predictions? If we're going to do predictions, I think it will depend on if Giroud plays. If Giroud plays, then I'm going to go draw. If Giroud doesn't play, I'm going to go Inter win.
Yeah, I think the Giroud factor is really important because Stefan de Vrij, he was turned by Olivier Giroud, and that's become a meme now. It's become or as you would call it, a meme. But it's that worries me. Also because of the fact that Giroud, Giroud is so good at holding the ball up and pinning the ball down and giving Milan the breathing space they need. And I know, and De Vrij struggles against Giroud. He does. If it were Acerbi, I wouldn't be worried because Giroud won't beat Acerbi for pace, and but physically they can match each other. But De Vrij in the middle, I'm not sure he can match Giroud physically. I think I'd rather have De Vrij against Jovic than against Giroud. So maybe we see Acerbi start for Inter. We'll have to wait and see. If Inzaghi thinks he's going to start Giroud, I think Acerbi, if he's fit, he'll play. But other than that, look, predictions. I see a lot of people saying this. It's going to be a goal fest and so on. I mean, Opta supercomputer favors Inter, according to Ante's article, to giving them a 46% chance of victory in comparison to Milan's 25%.
Okay, that's pretty significant. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And one interesting stat is that over the opening month in Europe's top 5 leagues, Inter are second only to Napoli for shots per 90 minutes in the penalty area this season. And that's in all of Europe's top 5 leagues. Napoli at 15.33, Inter at 14.33.
But do you have the full table there by any chance?
No, I don't. And as for Giroud, he leads Milan for expected goals combined with expected assists per 90 minutes so far this season at 1.65. So he's only trailing Milik and Berardi in the Serie A for the combined stat XG and XA, and that speaks to your point about how important Giroud is to Milan in the offensive phase as well.
Oh, absolutely crucial, and also he's his experience as well in these kind of games. I think Inter do have the more experience for sure. They've got more experienced players in their team. I do feel that Thiago Kier is an area that if Thuram and Lautaro players they've started the season, I think they can definitely target that for sure. Definitely.
Yeah, it is. But if we're going to talk about like how Milan are going to play, talking from a Milan perspective, it's a really interesting. We've spoken about the inverted fullbacks. Ante's take on this I think is really interesting. I'm going to read it from the article. It's important to highlight that the primary function of inverting fullbacks in phases of possession is as a defensive mechanism, keeping distances between players shorter and theoretically safeguarding against defensive transition. It should therefore serve as no surprise then that among the 31 teams in Europe's top 5 leagues to have averaged more than 400 completed passes, Milan have the second lowest percentage of progressive passes received at 4.23%. The sample sizes are small, of course, but it's notable that with similar implementation in possession, Manchester City are third lowest so far at 4.27. Las Palmas hold the lowest at 4.04%. Yet the difference between Milan and City or Arsenal is that the latter two are pinning the defences in their own half. Among those 31 teams so far, Milan have the lowest percentage of passes that end in the attacking third at 5.31% in comparison to Arsenal, who have the highest at 10.26%. So, Milan are score a lot, but they play a bit differently. and they're much more defensively solid. I guess is the conclusion to draw from this, and that there is essentially a double pivot of Krunic and Calabria to safeguard this defensively. But yeah,
well, actually, Krunic actually was falling back into a third centre back.
Well, that's what he means. That Krunic and Calabria become like a double pivot when they push up, like in the attacking phase. I mean, Milan averaged the sixth lowest number of shots in the penalty area, 8.33, with a no penalty XG of 1.08. Among that sample of 31 teams in Europe.
I love this, Nima. Nima embracing the underlying stats of football. I remember a year or 2 years ago, you were like deaf to all XG and underlying stats.
I'm not deaf to it. What I have said consistently throughout this is, if you use it as a tool to explain reality, it's fantastic. But if you're just going to read it straight up and down and think it proves anything, it doesn't. That's what I've always said. Go and check the tapes. Check the tapes.
I love it. But it is important, though. It is very useful for seeing little patterns and
But again, as he says throughout his article, the sample size is really small. We're only 3 games in.
Well, that's what I think is interesting, because both teams have been so good, and Milan especially. This does become a big acid test for them so far. How they do. Inter had the first 2 games, a couple of pretty straightforward games, and then they obviously played Fiorentina, and who are a level high, and they smashed them 4-0. So,
but the key to build on that is Lautaro Martinez, and I'm reading here from his article. It says he's been critical so far for Inter. He's averaged more touches and progressive passes to start this season than in any of his previous 5 with Inter. And it's not affecting his ability to arrive in the penalty area either. However, with his 16 shots, only 1 less than Napoli's Victor Osimhen in the Serie A so far. So Lautaro is definitely is the focal point and has also improved. The fact that he has so many touches and progressive passes, but it hasn't impacted his ability to end up in finishing positions in the penalty area so far. It's very that's a really important point. So Lautaro is going to be key, and
I'm sure he will be, and so will Rafael Leao on the other side, and Teo Hernandez, who often plays badly against Inter. It's about time Teo started performing in the derby, because he's always underperformed in the derbies. And Teo Hernandez. So Milan need big performances from their big players.